Hey YouTube, second attempt at this video, ran out of space in the computer. I was only about a minute in, so I might be repeating myself, but you would never have seen the first half. Never mind. Hey Egypt. Yeah, so my dad bought me this t-shirt for Christmas. You can never have too many guitars, and I think I probably, to be honest, do have too many guitars. When it gets to the point, I keep becoming aware of this when I don't find them. I know I've got them, but last week I found looked out my Vantage Avenger, and it's an amazing guitar. It's an early 80s Japanese killer guitar, which are, I mean, it's like, you're taking people's word for things. It's like, why do you think I've got all of these? Okay, that one's not that one there is a J-Pax, but all the others are, and that one there I made myself. But it's got a Japanese neck. But these are all 80s Japanese or 70s, 80s Japanese guitars because they are the best guitars you can get. There, said it. Go argue. Yeah. Type in, I've got Gibson Les Paul. Go. Do it. The difference being, which you get, I mean, this is again when it comes in with my problems with Gibson and Harley Benton more than anyone else. It's people, oh, it's the best guitar ever. Oh, absolutely love it. Oh, have you tried any other guitars? No. Why would I try other guitars? I looked up the internet and I know that Harley Bentons are amazing. I didn't look up the internet. I accidentally bought a Japanese guitar and it was like, Jesus, what the hell? It was my Washburn 8-string bass. I bought it because it was an 8-string bass, and it wasn't really until I decided I was buying it. I was like, "This on neck. Look at the wood this is made of." Everything about it was just like miles better than anything I'd ever seen up until that point. And I've got, at the time, I had a Gibson SG. I've got a Schecter Telecaster, like an 80s original Dallas, same as Mark Knopfler's Schecter Dream Machine, and you know, it's like, aye. And then I started getting into that was really my realisation was like, this is a wee bit of a lecture coming up. I bought a Hondo Telecaster, which is a Korean, not a Japanese guitar, in cash converters, which is, I think it might actually be back. It was just opposite Guitar in Glasgow, and they wanted 30 quid for it. And it looked at it, and it looked awful good. Didn't have a telly at the time, or I had a Schecter telly. And the only thing wrong with it is it had a pointy headstock, and the nut was loose, so I had to glue it in. And it was, I remember sitting there and I was like, oh, you take 20 for it? The guy's like, no, I'll just put it out this afternoon. You know, come back in a couple of weeks, it might. I was like, oh, well, you've priced it awful well. At 20 quid I would have bought it anyway, and at 40 quid I wouldn't even be looking at it, but you put 30 on it. And I was like, can you hold it for me while I go out and smoke this fag? Like, can you just stick it behind the counter for 5 minutes? Just like, of course, no problem. So I went out and had a fag, and there's a cigarette in Scotland. Walked across the road at Guitar. I was looking in the window and they had a Fender Baja telly, although I've been pronouncing it Baja, but I always like to pronounce things wrong if possible. And it was like 700 or 800 quid. And the Hondo, looking at them up close, you kind of go, there's not an awful lot of difference in these two. Just looking at it, you know, the type of wood and all that, and then so I bought the Hondo and I got home, glued the nut, put strings on it, and it was pure amazing. I was like, oh my god, you don't need to spend. I mean, I was the same as a lot of people are probably still there just now. This is when I started playing the guitar. It was kind of pre-internet. I think there was internet. I didn't have it though. So I was always thinking that you needed a beginner guitar, just whatever, so you could learn a shite Strat copy. So I got a straight shit. And then it was like, once you were a bit better and started to play with other folk or going into the studio, you needed to have an Epiphone. So it was good enough to be played through a big amp in the studio. And then if you were gigging, you really needed to have the Gibson, because that's, you know, you needed a proper gigging guitar. And it was really that Hondo that really made me go like that. This is 100% a gigging guitar. It was just a Korean, it wasn't a Japanese guitar. It wasn't until later on that I bought quite a few Hondos, and then they're just not as good as the Japanese. The Hondos are Samick built. So basically, think of any guitar that's about £1,000 and made in Korea. That's what a Hondo is, pretty much. They were never that expensive. They will be eventually that expensive when people start realising what they are. In fact, I've actually picked up a couple of Hondos off my pal there. I'm going to set them up just by. Yeah, it's really the quality levels of these things is pure silly, and as if you're having too many guitars. The problem is it's like it becomes a bit of an addiction, especially at the price some of these things come in at. They're like pure. You'd be sick if you knew what I paid for this. And now this is not me doing wheeling dealing, because obviously the Corker there, which is the best guitar in the world. I didn't even pay. I got for nothing. Well, I did work in a shop for a few days, but we were kind of staying at the guy's house in Pennsylvania. He was in hospital with a brain bleed, and I kind of looked after the shop for a few days. Sold a couple of guitars, but he gave me that. I was like, hey! But I do have a few guitars in the collection. That might be a video coming up, and I'll go for my cheapest guitars I've got in my hoard. Obviously, I have picked up guitars at car boot sales for a tenner and all that. Totally have done that. They're Bucky casters, or I've fixed them up, sold them, or whatever. They were never in the collection. Whereas this is, so is that. That's another really cheap one. Like to the point of just going, no, you can't buy a guitar for that works. So this is my Blazer, a bl450. And the story with this one was I had one in fixing it up for a Blitzkrieg shop, just set it up really, and I can give it a bit of a clean. It was a bl450, so it was basically this exact guitar, apart from it had a candy apple red finish and painted headstock to match the candy apple red, and these pickups, but these are Super 6s. The ones that come in the 550 are Super Tap 6s, and I thought this was going to be like my I've got a Yamaha SC400, which is it's got pickups that look very much like these. Look at this. Well, they're big, odd looking single coils. Look at the size of the pole pieces. Much bigger than normal. Kind of like Schecter Monster rocks. But they've got a third adjustment screw, so you can tilt the pickup to match the strings, which nobody does. I think it's because it's too expensive. You'll notice that in a lot of these. Obviously, none of the ones I'm going to point to are going to have it. No, none of them have it. No, none of the ones you're pointing at. Oh, the Ibanez does. Like on the other Ibanez, my Roadster. If you look at the bridge pickup, it's got two screws on one side and one on the other. That means you can tilt it, so it sits absolutely flush with the strings. Yes, what a great improvement! Why doesn't nobody do that? It's really annoying that nobody does that, and I can't. It just. Even if there's not really a sonic difference, there is a sonic difference, but even if there's not really that much, it still irks me somewhat looking at a guitar and the pickups are sitting like this. You know what I mean? When you can actually adjust them so you can set it so it sits perfectly parallel under the strings. I suppose on a humbucker, it's if you get the two coils sitting like that, it's picking up this coil more, so you get a better sound if they're both even. Whereas in a single coil, might make some difference. Yeah, so my pal Joachim in Sweden's got a Candy Apple Blue 550, which is, if anyone said, you can have any Blazer you want, it would be that one. In fact, it would be fucking Joachim's I would take, and then I would play it every thing and go, haha. But the 550 came in Candy Apple Red, or the turquoisey Candy Apple Blue, I'm calling it. It's a blue version of Candy Apple Red, whereas the one that I had from Blitzkrieg fixing up was the red one. Yes. There's a few. I get confused. So the 550 is the top of the range. The 500 is the one below it, which is the same with the painted headstock and all that, but it's a hardtail. And then the 450 is this one, which has got the bridge, and then they go down the way. But it's quite high end. But absolutely rock solid pro guitar by any description. Gotoh tuners, the Ibanez Smooth Tuner 2, which are just Gotoh tuners. One piece maple neck, which these are apparently made by a different company because Fujigen didn't have the right machinery to make one piece necks. So all the ones, although I've recently found out that I don't think these are Fujigen anymore. These two. Like up until this morning, I totally did. You see them occasionally. That's branded CSL. That one's branded Antoria. But they were both available as Ibanez, and they were both available as many different companies because what I thought was Fujigen, but I now think is Matsumoku, built these guitars, and then people from guitar shops in Britain or America ordered them in and got their own badge put on the top. Same sort of idea with the Arbiter. You know, it's an Arbiter Flying V from Dallas Arbiter on Denmark Street in London, and CSL's Charles Summerfield Limited. Are they from Newcastle or something like that? Antoria, I'm not really sure. I think they were a brand before that, and then, but there's lots of ones, and there's slight variations from year to year between them, but it's basically exactly the same guitar. That one only comes in that colour, and that one only comes in that colour. But I saw one this morning on one of the Japanese Facebook groups. Basically, it's that guitar. It's got the two knobs and the Les Paul type switch. It's got that type of bridge on it. It's got the funny pickups that are in backwards, all that. It's the same colour. Slightly different headstock, but I think they maybe reshaped it. And it's got the steel adjustable neck written on the neck plate. And my belief is that the steel adjustable neck written on the neck plate, this, is it, there, means it's a Matsumoku guitar. The Matsumoku factory. Not all Matsumoku factory guitars have the steel adjustable neck on them, no. But all of the ones that have steel adjustable neck that look like that on it are Matsumoku. The serial number doesn't mean anything, they just come out of a box. So it doesn't tie in. There is somebody's tried to make a chart of it, but I think there's too much of a random element in it, really. To blame them. This one isn't this is a, as I said, Dyna built, because they didn't have the machinery to make the one-piece neck. One-piece neck is basically, this is one piece of maple, there you go. The truss rod, this bit here's channelled out, and then they put the truss rod in, and then they put a piece of walnut or something in to block it. I don't know what kind of wood it is. But the frets are basically put into the neck. There's no separate fingerboard is really what it means. I do remember there being a thing when I started playing the guitar, pre-internet and all that, where it was you wanted to have a skunk stripe because that makes it better. What it does mean is, well, this is obviously things I've got Chinese whispered into oblivion. If you don't have a skunk stripe and you've got a maple neck, it means it's a separate fingerboard. But you also get guitars that have the skunk stripe and have a maple fingerboard. Case in question. Oops, sorry. Yes, that one. There you go. Oh, skunk stripe, one piece maple neck. No, it's a separate fingerboard. It's just it's a pattern thing to make it look different. I think there was a time in the 60s with the early Fenders. They were originally one piece maple, and then mid 60s or something they started doing it. What do they call it? A slab fretboard, something like that. A separate cap. And then that was where somebody at some point's going, oh, you want the one with the net down the back because that means it's a one piece neck. Which, is it better? I like the idea of it. I like the idea of it being one piece of wood with the frets in it. It doesn't make any difference. Really, it's like, oh, how do you notice the difference when you kind of look at it? You start trying to see if there's a wee line in it. You can't feel anything else. Wonderful neck though, 7 1/4 inch radius, very vintage Strat. Was never really that keen on the headstock, but it's grown on me. Big headstock on this. They kind of improved it a little bit with this one. They made it a little bit smaller, but still roughly the same shape. It's kind of like shaped like a, I don't actually know what it's called. It's like a pike. You know, a pike for samurai warriors. There's a blade. There's a stick with a blade this shape on it, like from samurai era or something like that, which is what that's kind of copy of. Yeah, so as I said, we've got the super tap pickups, got a phase switch, never used that, 5-way switch, volume, tone, brass, it's just brassy all the way around. Can't quite get the trem to work on this. I think the paint job has interfered with, see the bit in below, I think it's sitting on, but this is pre-J-Packs, significantly. Now seeing brightly coloured guitars isn't as much of a thing. This was my attempt at a dip, and basically all the paint stuck on the bottom, and it just looked shit. And then I went, oh fuck. So I sprayed a couple of glow in the darky type colours on it, and then just left it, gave up. And then the following day it was like, I really want to play that guitar because I bought this in bits. That's why it was so cheap. Someone had tried to paint it with, I think they'd sanded it down and gloss painted it with brush blue, navy blue paint. It looked awful. It was, oh, the knobs are all missing and all that, but they were, basically what was missing was the washers. And it was obviously had been played since the 90s or something like that. Or, I can't remember what he said, 89 or something he said the last time he used it. but I made it live, and I promised the guy. The guy actually, he was in Edinburgh. It was at 9 o'clock at night. Actually, I'm not even going to end up playing this guitar in this video. I'm just going to end up talking shit. I was talking about the Blether to Craig, the guitarist in the Sabbath band. Must have been whatever night it was. Well, amazing. They sent me this thing in Gumtree. I was like, oh, no way, I can't. That'll have sold out. That'll be long gone. And he was like, up here. It's only been on 8 minutes. Fucking phoned him, made him wait for an hour. So this was at 9 o'clock at night on a Tuesday night or something, or maybe after that. I was basically going to bed. I was in my pyjamas, and then it was like, can you hold on to it for an hour? And I just basically left here and drove to Edinburgh at 10 o'clock at night or whatever it was. But you still be up. You keep it for me. And it's like, so I went and got it. And the guy's like, up here, yeah, you're going to make an absolute killing on this. I've had like 40 messages, had to pull it down even after I'd pulled the advert down. And I was like, you're going to make a killing. I was like, no, this is for me. And he was like, oh, all right. Is it up here? Oh, ibanez blazer. And it's like that. So it was never going to be one for selling anyway. So obviously I sent him pictures once I'd done the stupid paint job. So I put it back together again after I'd stripped it and painted it. And then ended up actually quite liking it. So I played it for a few days now, and actually, the plan was I was going to sand it down and paint it again. And after a few days, it was like, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it all to bits again and then just varnish it and then put it back together again. So that's why it looks like it does. But I do need to go in below. I'm going to take this bridge off and then sandpaper, take the paint off that sits in below, because obviously with a Strat type bridge, it sits on a thingy. And just going by the amount of weight and the amount of brass in it, it should be better than a normal Strat bridge. So there we go, 17 minutes in, not even played the guitar, so this has got high power pickups in it. Which isn't as bright and jangly as a vintage Strat. But these are meant to be... which is what this guitar's for. keep your eye out for these things. This is kind of going along with my pal bought that Jarrock guitar last week, which was kind of a bit more like the Red Star, an RG140. But there's just, it's kind of in the same league as this. Basically, just take a Stratocaster and make it better. Yep. And try not to be too snobby about these things. Ibanez are a sort of funny one. They're obviously still going and still making great guitars. One of the best guitar brands, my favourite guitar brands that's currently kicking about. Definitely. Way better, them and Yamaha. Although they're not all Japanese anymore, once you get up to a certain price, they are. But the cheaper ones are still awful good compared to pretty much anything else you can buy for a similar sort of money. But this is a deluxe guitar. It might even be called a Roadster. There is a Roadster Deluxe. That's a Roadster Deluxe. Is it? Yes. It's a kind of no expense spared super Strat. The powerful pickups, I really wish it had the tap feature on them. Because I really liked the thin pickups. Basically, if you tap these pickups, they sound like the ones that are in that, because they're like really low output, like 4K. These are like 7. So if you half them, you end up with what's in the Roadster. I like the really light jangliness you get out of really vintage pickups. This one takes the rat pedal better. It's better for the rock. You can play Judas Priest on it. More than you can on the super lightweight ones, more than I could on that white guitar, for example. I'll eventually be able to do that without just doing that same bit. But this was actually my main guitar for a long time. I used this in Cranking House a lot. Totally dependable. Super not mega happy with the trem. I think it's got to be the paint behind it, so that might be my next. I wish I should. That might be why I took the strings off it. This has been sitting in the corner there, just out of shot for the last few months. I took the strings off it because they were so hideous. Yeah, the only thing not original on this is the knobs. These are gold Les Paul knobs, which I didn't have knobs when I got it, and I've actually got ones from a Washburn Force, which are basically exactly the same brass barrel ones that are meant to be on this. And I put them on, don't look as good. I like these ones, I don't know why. And even things like the switch tip. I wanted a fancy switch tip, so that's basically the bit out the back of like the Bic biros you get when you were at school. The wee blue bit, or in this case black bit that came out the back. I just stuck that on, put a wee bit of red tape around it just to make it look a bit cooler. So I was fed up. I do actually have a purple one. I've got a purple switch tip. I might put that on it instead. These are small things. But I can't. I don't know. The temptation would be to actually put a hot rail in the bridge or put a humbucker in it. But no. This is staying the way it is. As it is, this cost me 25 quid. Yeah. And I absolutely love this guitar. It's an absolute belter. The problem is that I've got an awful lot of absolute belters. And if you look at all the guitars, I started off this with a wee rant saying you can have too many guitars and being annoyed at how a lot of people don't actually try anything but just look up stuff instead and to see what everyone else says. Oh, that must be right. Yeah. Rather than forging your own way, because it's possible there's possibly a taste thing in it as well. I mean, you might like the feel or the idea of this better than a Gibson Les Paul. I do, but I also think if the Les Paul was a better guitar, I would be able. I'm hopefully objective enough to say, well, but that's like the classic Strat versus Les Paul. I'd rather have a Strat. So there you go. This versus a Fender. Which Fender is it? Is that a Japanese Fender? Japanese Fender, then it's really which one's the better colour. If it's an American Fender, then it's whichever one's the better colour, really, isn't it? it's a Mexican Fender. This is a better guitar, straight up. Just it's a bit of work that goes into them. I mean, it's like actually someone put a post. This is what kind of triggered this. Someone put a post up in Cheap Awesome Guitars, talking about Gibsons. And like, oh, Gibsons are pure amazing and absolutely. It was like a godlike experience playing a real Les Paul and all that. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to say anything. And then all the other comments were just like pure, oh man, have you ever tried? And it's like, all right, because people do actually try these things and maybe just get them by accident at some point. You go, oh, I see something like this, and you're like in a pawn shop for a couple $100. And you go, oh, I quite fancy a Strat, and then they'll, you know, it's all rusty and all that. So they clean it up, put it, do exactly what I did, and go, geez, what the? This can't be right. No, this isn't right. This can't be better than what? And then, as all of these guitars are in that same category, where it's like, I can't sell them because I'd be selling. It depends. You'd have to be the right person to buy it. You've got to be a right mindset. Someone that's actually going to appreciate it and enjoy it. Which I do. Okay, they do spend a lot of time sitting in the rack down there and on the wall, but I play them, and I really enjoy playing them. And you do get a sentimental attachment to a lot of guitars. This is incredibly comfy. It feels big. Is it actually bigger than a Strat? It just looks like it is. I really don't think it is. It looks like a chunky Strat. I think that might be just the way I've painted it. I have to say that I'm not super keen on a lot of these come in brown or black, and it's like. So I was actually quite pleased this one came. I'd already been badly painted, so I had to sand it and paint it myself. Obviously, if I'd got it this year or last year, it would have been J-Packs, but this is different. M-Packs. Aye. But I mean, what a flipping guitar. You know, if anyone wants to give me some Tap 6 pickups, or they've got Tap 6 pickups, and I never used a tap, that's a shite sound, why would you ever want that? I just took the switch out, I'll fucking give you 50 quid, and these pickups to put them in, you won't notice the difference. 50 quid's incidentally much more than I paid for this guitar. So I could kind of, not that you really need it, I mean, I'm not pure gagging for a humbucker. It's loud enough, and if I want to play jangly stuff, I've got a Strat. Maybe there is something to be said for the high-powered pickups. I've been slagging them off a lot recently, just saying everyone wants to, they always say, oh, I want hot pickups, get hot pickup, hot. And hot I don't necessarily think's better, but it kind of depends what it is you want. This doesn't sound anything like as much of a Strat as that does. It's because it's a Super Strat, is it? It can't be a Super Strat. When does it become a Super Strat? When they've tried to improve it, and I'm saying they're trying to improve it. Yes, they have, because it's got the all brass bridge. Basically, is an upgrade on any Fender. The pickups are very powerful, and they've got the extra thing on it, you know, and it's got a phase switch. It's an attempt at making a guitar better than a Strat that is a Strat. So for that, hats off to them. That's just a copy of a Strat. This is trying to do something else. This is after all your lawsuits and stuff. When ibanez, I mean, one of the reasons there were the lawsuits and stuff like that, or there wasn't really a lawsuit, but the Americans started getting a bit pissed off because guitars like this were fucking amazing. That's an amazing Telecaster. And they weren't expensive compared to the American ones. I'd never tried. I need to get a shot of an actual, that's a 74 custom deluxe. So it's from 74, but I think the actual model 71 or 72 custom it's called. You can get, the Fender did make one at the same time, and every review you ever read, they're like $5,000 all beat up, and every review you read is like, oh my god, this weighs a lot, it's weighs the same as the Death Star, all that stuff. And that's not heavy, it's fine, it's just normal. It's at the point of you go, is it heavy? I don't remember it being heavy, don't remember it being light either, so it's probably in the middle. But I just love that guitar. It's a really strange sounding one. Before guitars all became homogeneous, guitars have become very homogeneous these days. The last 20 years, they used to get what they sounded really different. You know, it's like that the Telecaster doesn't. It's got a really, really low-endy, beefy pickup that's really, really shrill and sharp, and it's amazing. It sounds, that's beefier than any guitar you could buy now, and that's treblier than any guitar you can buy now. But people want something that kind of does an all-rounder. So if you get an all-rounder, like any Epiphone or Squire you get now, is a bit more, it can sort of do anything, but it doesn't absolutely excel at anything. Whereas a lot of the older guitars, I think this goes for like the 50s and 60s ones, the Gibson Fenders as well. They do what they do really well, but maybe they're not as well rounded. This one, as I think, it's a bit like that. This is a bit more rock. It's like a rock Strat. It was by 81. Was it 81? This one from the 82 catalogue, but it was built in 81. But then you were getting, was shredding a thing, was getting there. Right? Van Halen was kicking about, so you were getting people who are doing the fretboard gymnastics. Yeah, so I've run out of time to do videos today. That's why I did this one just when I was driving home, and I ended up just talking. It was only going to be a 5-minute just play this, so I might do it. I'm going to have to leave this out and try and use it in the live stream. This is the one I used to use for demoing pedals because it was my main guitar for a year. All the Fuzz Thursdays was done with this guitar. Anyhow, I'll let you rock on. I've got guitars to build.